Hi, this is Chris Lawton from Intuit Health, and I'm here with Becky, and this is Talk Between Christina and Becky about interesting things that you can't always see and touch and how it affects your life. So we were just having an interesting conversation. We're starting a little early, but I wanted to start the recording because it makes for interesting listening. So I did a reading for this guy, and he was always saying that he had really scary happenings around his house and stuff. And you had just said about, like, the brighter your light is, sometimes the stuff bothers you that, you know, is kind of scary or foreboding. And that's what it's like for him. I think he has really, really important things to do. He's like this really intense healer that, I don't know, it's like things outside of him come at him to scare him to death, so he doesn't want to touch it.
What cord?
I need the phone cord from the, I think it's in my bedroom.
You know, that makes a lot of sense, because it's almost like when these things happen to people, especially at a young age, it's almost like lessons or initiations of some sort to kind of propel them on them to, but I mean, a lot of times though, dealing with those scary things, I think it makes people shy away from it even more because it's so in your face. You don't want to deal with it.
So that sometimes I wonder if, and I don't know how much credence I put to this, but you can't hear Becky. I know I turned up my volume too. I thought it was me. Can you turn up your and are you plugged in? Are your headphones plugged in? If you unplug your headphones from the computer. Hi, Chris. We could hear you more. We could at least hear you with the headphones. Talk now. No. I can't hear you. Nope. Lip sync. We've tested this earlier, made sure everything worked great.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yay, I can hear you.
Okay, I think I had to refresh it because it was used to the headphones. It's funny because my husband went on Skype and he called me just so I could try it. So,
okay, well, that's perfect.
But that's okay.
It's way, way better.
Okay, good. Everybody can hear me? Hi.
So this is what I'm wondering, and I don't know how much credence I give this or not, but my mom, this is one of my mom's beliefs, is the lighter you are and the better, like the more you're going to do to like fight off the darkness with whatever practice you have or whatever, you know, what kind of healer you are. She always believed that dark things would get in your path, like things would stop you from even having the want or the urge to get out there and do stuff, because her feeling was the more you're going to do, the more resistance you'll get.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think too, I always liken it to, you know, those bug zappers that the mosquitoes are drawn to. I always kind of liken it to that, because I feel like the more work somebody's doing on the inside, you know, the more of a healer they are, the stronger healer that they are, the bigger the work they're going to do in their life. I feel like, I don't want to say their light is brighter, but I just think that those things are drawn to them.
Yeah, maybe either the light or the vibration. You know, if if your vibration is really high,
yes, they're drawn to that.
But then when I think about that, if your vibration is really high, you may not draw to you like a lower vibration type of darker energy. Because
Well,
I
you
think
know what it is. I think that it's the fear, because that's the main thing that you had said that he feels a lot of when he deals with that stuff is the fear.
Yeah.
And those energies, if you think about it, like you said, frequency, this is what made it pop in my head. Those energies, those low vibration, darker spirits, they're operating at a very low frequency. That stuff that makes us feel like somebody's watching us, it makes us feel uncomfortable. So if they're making people feel that way and they're getting the reaction they want, then that's more energy that's they're getting.
It perpetuates the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like a circle. It's like a so I think that would be good for you to talk to him, because then you could maybe help give him tools to maybe step out of it. Because remember when we talked last week and I told you I was so afraid of all that spirit stuff that I ignored it and I tried my hardest to not pay attention to it. And then the shaman classes helped me because I was given the tools to really allow myself to stand in my energy and to know that I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to, I'm not going to get, just to work with it more. It helped me a lot.
Right. That's what I've told him over the years. We've probably been talking for about 3 years. And like I was saying before anybody came in, is this guy, I'm going to try to have him come in the next week or two to come talk to us if he'll dare, because he's very shy about it. But he sent me videos of like knives dancing on his kitchen counter with nothing touched, or like pictures that will make your skin crawl, like you can see things. It's this like stuff that I don't know, he tends to attract. So over the years, I've tried to tell him, and we were going to talk about this later on, tried to tell him about how like owning his own light and his own power kind of pushes things like that back. And over the years, he's become more comfortable with the whole thing and learned how like that it wasn't going to hurt him. And he just got off the phone with me saying, I feel real comfortable. I'm almost ready to talk about it and, write about it on Facebook or whatever. So, I'm happy for him that, because he used to be like his stomach, he literally had physical symptoms from the stress of being haunted by whatever it was around him.
Wow.
It was scary.
Do you think that he could be haunted? Like, because you know how they say sometimes there's houses that can have hauntings, but then there are people that can be haunted.
I believe.
Do you think that?
Yeah, I don't believe it was as much him as it had to do with the person that he lives with. That's what it felt like to me.
Okay.
But
all right.
But I think he's just learned how to live with it, Here comes Greg.
Hey.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
I saw you last time you were on. You had those very interesting phenomena.
Yes, that was a fun talk.
I'm ordering my coffee.
Nice. What are you ordering?
Via text message?
Well, I was making coffee. I make it in like a Turkish cup, in a Turkish thing on the stove, but it wasn't quite done before I had to sit down. I was debating on whether, have you ever seen that the YouTube show with the guy who it's like the drunk cook? He drinks the whole time that he's cooking, and he got like 1 million viewers overnight because of this crazy show that he has on YouTube. So I said to my kid, should I have a glass of wine or should I have a cup of coffee?
Making your coffee.
And my daughter says, Mom, you should look more professional and be drinking coffee instead of wine.
No, it's
wow.
You want to relax.
Good for her.
I know. That's how she's my
Miss Blue, is that Miss Blue hair?
Yes, she keeps me in line.
She's a very mature girl.
Yes, she is.
So, Christina, I have some questions for you. Okay, so in you doing your Intuit to Health, I really was interested to know in what you've gone through in your life that's propelled you to do the work that you're doing. Like what crazy magical events have happened to you that really put you on this path?
5 hours later. No. The strangest thing is I was, how old? I'm 52, so I was about 32. Working full-time as a nurse, 2 little kids at home. I had no idea, no spiritual sense. I'd never seen, I had one experience. My brother who had died earlier, I woke up with him sitting on my bed in my early 20s. But other than that, I never had any experiences, no dreams, nothing. And I was one of those horrible people. I shouldn't say that, but I was one of those people that would make fun of people that said that they saw things or that they thought they believed in ghosts or like, I don't know. That was me. Like, so I was invited to a workshop for guided imagery. It was a chakra workshop to breathe, a breathing color meditation. So I said, this is like kind of stupid, but I'm going to go because I can get CEUs. I'm a nurse, right? I mean, I really said that. Like, this is just ridiculous. I don't believe in this, but I'm going to go. Well, I went and we started breathing. Like, she started guiding us through this meditation from the root chakra up. I started listening to her and just following the meditation. Well, all of a sudden, it was like someone poured hot water over my head and I could just, now I know like it's my own energy, feeling my energy, but I didn't know what it was. And I just got bigger and bigger. Like I could feel myself expanding and seeing the colors and feeling stuff. And I got to my heart and freaked out and had an anxiety attack.
Wow,
I
really?
just couldn't, like, I didn't know what was wrong with me. It was awful. And my head felt kind of like I was really high, like because I was so expanded that I don't know. So I left there and I was with my mom and I said to my mom, something's wrong with me. My heart's skipping everywhere and I'm scared and I'm hot and like something's wrong with me. So we went back in and the lady grounded me, which I had no idea what that meant at the time either. She's like, let me put my hands on your feet. And I'm like, what are you doing? So she did help me a little bit. And so that was that experience. And then I did a guided imagery for myself. And I walked up to this house that was like, in my imagery, it was a house about me. It was my first guided imagery I did. I knocked on the door. A guy came out, punched me in the face. I swear to God.
What?
So I called.
Okay.
Right, this gives you a little bit of my history, right? Of why I am the way I am. So I called the lady who taught the class and I said, what the hell? Why did somebody punch me? And she said, did you ask them why? And I said, no, I ran away because the guy punched me.
Oh my goodness.
So thank you. So that started my
punch.
That started
punch.
my trip.
Punch.
He's punching you now.
I went to a 7-week guided imagery that went through all the chakras. So I laid down and she was awesome. She had singing bowls and for an hour you would like lay there for this guided imagery. She was amazing. I would get halfway through and I would have such an anxiety attack about relaxing that I would have to get up and go to the bathroom. Wow. I couldn't do it. I would start to relax and I would freak. My heart would skip. It would go really fast and I'd be afraid. So I'd have to get up, go to the bathroom, take a couple deep breaths, maybe a couple of Motrin, and then I would go back. So, and then after that, I went for my Reiki 1, got my attunement, and I cried for a week. Don't know why.
Oh.
I kept, my husband at the time was like, what the hell is wrong with you? I don't know. Like, I didn't know. I just cried for a week. But then after that, I just grabbed on to everything. I bought all these Barbara Brennan books, who, I don't know if you know Barbara Brennan, but she is an energy healer. So it was all about reading energy and how to work with it. And Carolyn Myss was another one that I spent a lot of time reading all of her books. And I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead in like 2 days. I just couldn't stop reading.
Wow.
I couldn't stop reading and asking, and I journaled, and I did everything you could think of to like study and study and study. And I asked this profound question of, I just want to be I swear to God, I said this, and I'm not like, I'm a very eclectic person with my spiritual beliefs. So I'm not Christian, but I was like, I want to be a healer like Jesus. I want
You want to put mud on people's eyes? Spit in them?
I don't know what it was like. Someone went, all right, and just shook my whole life like that. And I don't know, for 10 years I had like this dark night of the soul thing going on. Like everywhere I went, I saw everybody's stuff. Every night I went to bed, I would dream about everybody's stuff or what was going to happen, or my personal life was a mess. And how did I heal? That's a good question. So at first it was, at first it was a lot of ego. Wow, I can do this. Wow, I can see this. Wow, I can tell people things that, I shouldn't maybe be able to know. But then after that, I was doing a lot of Reiki. I worked in 3 different facilities on payroll doing energy work in Indiana, which was a big deal, because that doesn't even, this was a long time ago, but even now that's hard to come by.
You didn't have to creep around.
But no, I was out there. I was writing notes like a regular nurse doing energy work. It was cool. I had connections though that did help me get in that position, but the amount of work that I was doing put me in a place where I couldn't keep my shit together, because I was so not well emotionally and spiritually that I couldn't help other people that way. So then I backed up and I just started working on myself. I did yoga all the time, got my yoga teacher certificate, and every day, and I still do it. I wake up and I think about where am I at. I meditate. I work with my energy. I work with, whatever things that are bothering me that day. And because I've learned you got to take care of your own stuff before you can go out there as a healer. If you're going to do, this type of work, when you go out there and you work with someone else who has your issues, your energy resonates together. And for me, I can't figure out what's mine and what's theirs. And if my stuff is straight, then I can look at them and help them with their stuff. And I can see the front and the back of it. Thank you. I can see the front and the back of it. It's not just the judgment, because I'm all like vibrating with their stuff together, but I can see what's the good part, what the shadow part is, and why it's there and how it's helped them. And so, that's where I am today.
That's excellent. Do you feel like yoga is one of the biggest things that helps to ground you when you're doing energy work? How do you ground? What do you do to ground? I think I'd like to know that.
Yeah, that's a good question. 1, I ask. 2, I have, those little things that you do that you don't want to tell anybody because you're really they're gonna think you're really crazy. Those things.
It's okay.
There was a period of time that I was working. It was someone that was living in my house that started me on this, but I was working with the grid. People talk about the grid surrounds the earth. So I was working with that. But in that working, shown the imagery, I'm going to put it that way so it doesn't sound so crazy, of being in this tube that almost like the tubes that you would send out in the bank to do your, do a deposit through a drive-through. If I stand in the middle of the tube, then I just ask to have my energy cleared. So, and I've had other people, like I'll take out other people into that imagery with me, and they can feel the stream of the energy coming down. So
you mean like source, like that light? Is that what you mean? Like the tube, like a light?
It's pure energy that kind of gives me an energetic shower, so that it just clears my stuff, clears my head, and brings me down, into myself. And the other part, I garden a lot. I ask to be ground. I visualize my energy moving down my body. All those things.
Those are really good things. And I think that's really helpful for a lot of people that may watch, because I find nowadays so many people don't realize that they're taking on other people's stuff all around them. Yep. And they're getting into these really like thick energy, stagnant things. And I think those are really good things, tools to help people to move that.
And water.
Yeah.
Water and food too.
Water. Mm-hmm.
Fruit, vegetables are really, really good. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots.
We are what we eat. That's true.
And it makes me think of both sides, because, and I mentioned this to you too, Greg, about eating clean and high vibrational foods. Yeah. So I find when I juice and when I do things like that it's pure. There was a period of time that I only did raw food, which is so much work, but at that time I was like a walking divining rod. Like that's what I felt like all the time. Mm-hmm. It was pretty, like I couldn't sustain that kind of diet because it's so much work, but to maintain. But I was looking at Greg's question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I was hearing you guys talk about light and like the shadow and stuff like that.
What about light work versus shadow work? In my awareness, light casts a shadow. The question is, what object of your attention that is casting, what object of our attention that is casting shadow? So go ahead and talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I guess.
Hi, Christopher.
Sorry?
No, I was saying hi to Christopher.
Oh. You wanted to talk about it, or are you asking me to talk about it?
Yeah, I wanted you to kind of put that into your own words.
Yeah, well, okay. In my spiritual practice, I'm in this incarnation. This is my domain. This is my life, and I'm going to live it the way that I want. And so, whatever energies are around me, they're subject to me. And so I believe that we are all energy generators. Sometimes I get into a place where I'm consuming a lot of energy, and I'm not really very healthy. But when I'm healthy, I'm an energy generator. When I'm an energy generator, it's like, okay, all my light goes out. And so if I'm feeling a shadow, the question is, what's casting? Because light, there's no shadow without light, and there's no shadow without an object between me and the light. So the question is, what is casting the shadow? And in case of emotional disturbance or an experience, it seems to me that the shadow is going to be some phenomena, some projection. It could be.
So I was going to say, can you give me an example of like when you feel this?
I'd have to sit with that for a minute. So in the case of, my mother died. She was the last of my family. So I'm the last survivor in my family. So my mother died. I'd spent 18 hours at the hospital that day, told her, it was fine for her to go. She was I felt like she was hanging on, and and I was just exhausted. So the nurses said, well, I think you'll be okay. And, if you need to get rest. So I decided to go to her place and catch some rest. And my fiance stayed with her at the time. And about 3 or 4 hours later, she passed. And I had a real kind of emotional charge around that. And so it really brought up a lot of sadness, regret, a lot of different things, even though I was there for 3 weeks. She was in the hospital for 5 weeks. I was there. I was by her side. I did a lot of things, but I couldn't get over the fact that I missed being there for her. And yet I believe that she chose that time because she had watched both of her parents die at the age of 14 and 16. So so now I can look at it and say, but the thing that was cast, the shadow, the anger, the frustration, that whole mix of grief and emotions was a projection. The shadow was me projecting and shooting and judging myself for not being strong enough to hang in there.
Do you think, when you're telling that story, I'm almost thinking that wasn't a shadow, but that was light being shown on the situation so you could work through it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's the fact. But at the time, after she passed, it was kind of a dark time. It felt, I mean, there were, I feel like emotions like anger, rage, guilt, shame are really strong shadows. And I'm saying that there's something casting the shadow.
It's weird.
So
and
deal with removing I can play with the shadow, or I can remove the object that's casting the shadow if I'm disturbed by the shadow. So if I'm angry and feeling shame and guilt, do I need to work with shame and guilt, or do I need to look at what the cause is of my shame and guilt?
I would say the shame and the guilt, because that's how I'm seeing the shadow is the bad feeling. Well, what you're saying is bad feelings, but they're just feelings. They're not good or bad.
Yeah.
But there's this light or this intensity put on them it's just the intensity of the situation that's exacerbating feelings that were probably already there to begin with too. You know what I mean? And it shines that bigger light on, like a pin. It kind of goes like this. So here's the things that you can look at.
So it's like a focusing ring.
Yep.
Right.
It does. It helps to focus it, to shine, like you said, shine the light on it. Because what you said, do I observe this? Do I work with this? And I think that is one of the biggest things that we do in our lives when we feel these lower emotions, these parts of our shadow self that's not always bright and sunny all the time, is to step back and to not be in them, but to observe it, to see where it's coming from. Like you did, like, well, where is this anger? Why am I angry? Instead of being in it.
Right. So then from your perspective, from your observation, that was light, not shadow, even though it felt dark to me. Interesting.
Well, I think it's shadow because you're feeling those low vibrations, but in a way, it's like your higher self, that light part of you, is wanting you to work through that.
Oh, that's so
because
true.
Then I believe that these events that we have happened to us, and I always get a lot of crap for saying that, but I feel like a lot of these events that happen to us, they're meant to trigger these things that to help us learn lessons, to go through these growing periods. Because I lost my mother too, about it in the last time. I miss her dearly, and it was the worst experience of my life. But I look back on it now and I'm like, wow, I am so much stronger and braver than I
For
was
sure.
then. You know what I mean? Like I grew so strongly. And I was only 20 when I lost her. And it was like I went through just this crazy, like Christina had mentioned, a dark night of the
Right.
soul, where you just go crazy with like experiences and growth, and it's intense.
And I also remember I was talking about, like, as I worked on myself, I can see the front and the back of things.
Yep.
When you feel, this is how, and I think this is what Becky's talking about too, and people don't like when I say this either, but people think of bad, and your thing is bad, but I've seen like some really bad, like I've been abused, or somebody's been murdered, but there's always a backside to it. I think that these experiences happen, maybe we've already planned this when we come here so that we can have these experiences. So some people have to go through really bad stuff in order for us to have our experiences. So I think there's a front and a back to everything.
Right.
So
it's kind of like this, the different end of the same stick, or the different side of the same coin.
Exactly.
It's like look at the bigger picture too.
Interesting.
Mel was asking about how, oh good, she's going to come on. That's good.
This is a fun conversation.
It is.
It is.
Mel was asking about how do you invite your higher self in? Hi.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, guys.
How are you tonight?
Awesome. I'm in New Zealand, so it's Monday at 2:30 in the afternoon.
And it looks
Hi.
a lot warmer there than it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You here?
See, I've got the singlet on.
Mm-hmm. Good
So
for you.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to ask you? Are you there? Can you hear me?
We are, but you're cutting in and out just a bit.
Oh, no. Okay, what I want to ask is you let your intuitive self explore the world, so you accepted it, and you're working with your inner self, am I right? Rather than your ego mind?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm at the stage where I'm still in my ego mind, but I'm wanting to open up and be my true purpose soul. How do I stop the fighting with the ego mind and just go like a free spirit? You know what I mean? And it's like I'm accepting it, but I'm also listening to a whole lot of crap that comes my way. How do I separate the two and just go for it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a really good question. I feel like what has helped me the most, because I still have moments where I'm in my ego mind, I'm like, wow, but we all do it because we're human.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to remember is judgment. I feel like when we can take ourselves, our minds out of what's going on around us and stop perceiving, and this is where I'm going to catch a lot of slack too, but perceiving things as bad or good. I think that is where the ego steps in too. I think if we can just experience without judgment and trying to see the bigger picture, trying to observe and understand where it's coming from, what it's trying to teach us, then I think that's the biggest key in really working with our inner selves and our intuition. Because intuition, you don't want to have that ego in there. You don't want to judge. You want to step out of that judgment and just see it for what it is.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I totally get that. And I'm motivated with myself and with others. And I look for what I really want, my passion is and my belief, and I go for it. And then I'll go 2 nights I'll go like the whole 9 yards to do something, but it never sort of pans out the way that you expect it to pan out. I want more, you know what I mean? I want more from what my goals and that, and then just not connecting with me. And I'm wondering, am I in the wrong direction? You know, I'll pour more my heart and soul in something, and it's taking a long time. And then you sort of like, you doubt yourself because you think you're in the wrong journey when your heart feels like it's the right journey. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I thought you were stopped because you stopped it kind of glitched. I'm like, oh, but no. So I don't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But I have a couple of things for sure, now I've been working on this for 20 years and I still see the shit everywhere all the time. And I have to check myself. So I don't think it ever stops. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. But you start to forgive yourself a little bit more each day for if you judge, or if you judge yourself, or if you judge someone else, or if you're wishing for things that you don't have or whatever. You start to understand it's okay. So you feel that way, but now I'm going to go back and feel this way. And for a lot of years, when I started doing this, my daily mantra was, I just want to be my authentic self. I just want to be my authentic. I am my authentic. Now, that was back then. Now I've learned to say, I am my authentic self. I am living my authentic life. Yeah. Because you have to speak in the present like it's already happening to make it happen. It's the energy of it.
But you know what? Sometimes you have to go with what your current beliefs are. I like the progression of what you described. I want to be my authentic self. I'm open to being my authentic self. I'm willing to explore being my authentic self. I am my authentic self.
Yeah,
right.
Because sometimes you have to work with where your brain is currently at. I mean, because that's one way I think of really kind of putting a container around the ego is to work in gradual steps. I have a very good friend of mine. He's 80 and a wonderful spiritual fellow. And we were talking one day about ego. I run a men's group up here, and we were talking about ego. He says, well, I don't know about you guys, but every night when I go to bed, I thank my ego. I say, thank you, ego, for protecting me, for looking after me and showing me the way, and for the lessons today. And he goes to sleep.
That's perfect.
And I thought, wow.
But I do too.
I think our ego can teach us a lot of stuff too. It's just like that shadow and that light. Yeah. And Mel, you had said something about being on your path and feeling frustrated because it wasn't happening the way you were wanting it to.
Yeah. It's exactly right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never the way you want it to.
That is the key. It's sometimes we could be so focused on what we want that we expect it a certain way, like to come to us in a way we've envisioned, when sometimes it can come in the way that we least expect it to. Yeah. And I think
that's a good way. I like that.
The biggest thing is to just be aware. And I think that's one of the problems. I have the same problem where I will get so fixated on, okay, I want to do this. And then because I'm so fixated on my vision of it, that I don't notice the signs and the symbols that are showing me to do it another way.
Mm.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So if you start maybe kind of saying, okay, well, this is what I want to do. I know that, your guidance, your spirit guides, your guardian angels, whatever you believe in, they're going to bring it to you.
I think the other thing that's kind of...
I totally agree. You know what?
I want Greg, you go.
The one thing that I think that is behind your question is how do I quieten my mind a bit, I think.
Yeah.
And because there's all this static, all this noise, and it kind of takes my, it's like squirrel, shiny object. I think that the best advice I got is from a Buddhist monk who said, when strong emotional feelings and reactions come, because that's what's really, I think, behind what you're saying, is these strong emotions, these strong thoughts, these charges that we feel. He says, do not chase them, do not deny them, do not feed them.
Yeah.
And that,
let them be.
That's been huge.
And the other thing I wanted to say too, originally when I said ask for what you want.
Yeah.
State it out loud, write it down. Wake up in the morning, the first thing you want to do is say, this is how I want to feel, or this is the way I feel now, or this is what I want to do. Because that the thoughts and your energy in your thoughts and your words create what's going to happen next. If that makes sense.
It so does. And I do that. I do a gratitude in the morning, and I'll write down 10 things that I was grateful for the day before. Can you guys hear me properly? Yeah. And I'll write them down, and it's amazing, because when you write them down, you revisit and you are really thankful for what has happened. And then I'll visualize what I want to do, and I'll make sure I actually do something in that day that will actually be part of that visionary. So for a goal that I'm wanting to achieve. So, you can't let it procrastinate. Otherwise, you do tend to let that goal slip. So if you can do something each day for it, whether it's reading an article, or whether it's just seeing a picture about it, or whether it's just contacting someone or talking to someone about your goal, it's still a action. And I'm amazed about what things come your way. At the moment I'm doing my veggie garden, and I'm like, oh, I'd love some plants. And then, you have friends that turn up at your doorstep with, rhubarb plants, or, you just talk to a neighbour, and it's just like, wow, I only thought of it. I never really put the plan into action, and yet it's all come to me. And that to me is like, wow, that's fantastic. So that is a gratitude that I'll write the next day, that my plants came to me. Well, and it gives you such a kick, because you know that the momentum and the flow of your goal is working, because you're in that mindset. And do you guys do something like that as well?
I think she was asking us if we do the same thing. I know that I do. I write stuff down. I make my lists of things that I want to create all the time, every day, and then go through it through my mind. Especially, I'm really I'm very stubborn and very strong-headed. So if it's something that I really want to create fast, I'll literally stand somewhere and raise my energy like I'm this magician, and raise my energy and throw my sparks out. Like I do that. And when I love it. Have you guys ever had this feeling that when you're manifesting something, you put it out there, right? You're saying, like, I don't know, I whatever you're asking for. I have a cup of coffee right now, right? You're manifesting that coffee, but you raise your energy and you think about it and you feel it, because that's the trigger, right? Feeling the emotion and the gratitude. And then you ever felt that like shift in you, that it's almost confirmation, like, yep, it's all done. Like before
it's coming. Yeah.
I love that, because I thought,
so do I.
Today I've been trying not to get aggravated with starting a new business and not making money yet. But I realized today that I haven't felt that feeling in a couple of weeks. Like I haven't been that assertive to get to that point where I could feel that engagement. So I don't know, for me, that's where the magic happens, because you can feel that shift of making know it's happening, even if it hasn't, it hasn't gotten there yet. It's beyond the trust. It's a real knowing.
It's that stomach thing, the butterflies, that gut feeling, it's on its way, and you get giggling and excited for it.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. I want to stay like that.
I know.
All the time.
Yeah.
But, wouldn't it be nice?
I know.
Absolutely.
But the challenges that come your way, as horrible as they feel at the time, there is lessons behind them, right? And it makes us stronger. And once we pass that, it means the momentum comes back again, and we're on that next journey. And it's to stay control of yourself and letting it go, rather than stopping it and sabotaging yourself. I don't want this, but just go with it, right? Accepting it. As crazy as it can be.
Yes.
As crazy as your mind can go.
Yes.
I think being on the bright side it always helps any situation. Always trying to see the bright side of it.
And gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude, I think, is so important.
I was thinking about something today.
Yeah. And, it's okay.
Go.
I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you.
Go, Greg.
Oh, no.
I was thinking about something today. I was
on.
thinking about the moment my son was born and seeing him take that first breath and how magical that is. And then it dawned on me, I get that same experience every time I take a breath. And so I was thinking, in terms, we were talking about grounding earlier. The fact that consciously breathing and noticing one's breath is classic grounding. It's classic centering practice.
Yeah.
Yes. That is my biggest thing, Greg. That's my biggest helpful tool is when I start to feel that anxiety or I start to feel overwhelmed and I breathe and I'm like, okay. It's like it helps to ground me so
otherwise
much.
It's like, because when you get that anxiety and anger and frustration or whatever it is, you stop breathing. It's like you're clamped up, right? You're in that fight or flight mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I hope that hope she heard that.
I know.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel.
It was a great conversation.
That was.
Is there anybody else out there that wants to come on to contribute or ask any questions?
Or anything you've ever experienced? We love these stories.
Yeah.
Ghost
We were
stories.
going to talk about ghost stories because that's always good.
Anybody?
I've got
It just makes me think of what you were saying, Christina, about the guy about with the knives and stuff, and how I feel like a lot of times whenever we hear stories like that, it's always the more negative aspect of it. You don't really hear too many positive stories.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody has any positive stories about seeing loved ones, connecting with past people who've passed, I think those are fun too.
They are. It's interesting. It always seems like everybody has a story, whether they believe in it or not. I run into that a lot, even if they're not like really on board, they still have a story. And there's always that little tiny glimmer of, well, maybe it's true, or maybe there's something beyond us, even if they're not a real, true. Yeah, I really do think that there's something going on. I thought a really interesting conversation would be about like things that we've experienced and how I've had people come up to me and say, I wake up all the time and there's somebody standing next to my bed, or my things get moved around when I come back into my room, or whatever their experience is with the other side. And some people become frightened. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, we have some control, like Greg was saying, like, this is my life and I'm, this is my thing. And I feel like that's how it is when we're visited by the other side, that we have the ability to kind of ask for, this is how much I want, this is how much I'm comfortable with. You can talk to me, but don't touch me, or whatever our comfort level is. And I'd like to let people know that there's that we have some control, so you don't really have to be afraid of the situation if that's how you feel.
Right.
I had a inner out body experience with my first child, but I will have to come on next time.
That'll be cool to talk about.
Got my sound, yeah.
You were saying too, Christina, what you were just touching on, the fear and, people when they see things and they kind of brush it off, or they don't really want to talk about it because they're afraid to talk about it. I think a big problem with it is our society. I mean, I think that when you talk about that stuff, it's labeled as not normal or you're crazy. And that's why, these shows that are coming on, although I love ghosts, but I don't, the fact they go out and they taunt these spirits and stuff, I don't like that. But the fact that we have these shows on air now and it's bringing awareness to people, like actual scientific proof, that I love, because I feel like it's a really important part of life. I mean, I've dealt with this stuff ever since I was little, although I didn't really pay attention to it. It's amazing to me. And I think a lot of times it's life-changing. My father had an experience. He grew up not believing in it, being married to my mother who was a psychic. He still was like, yeah, whatever. But he saw his my stepmom after she passed next to his bed. And ever since then, I can tell that things have changed for him, and he starts to kind of listen to what I have to say a little bit more instead of being like, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, Becky.
Isn't that a nice feeling? Like I live with people that are not now, like Isis, my daughter, definitely is not a skeptic, but my son was that way. My ex-husband was that way. And people I know, and I just keep trudging on, and I'll keep talking about what I see. And eventually they come to me, even though they don't want to sometimes, and say, what do you see? What do you see? And it's really cool to watch the evolution of acceptance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like a little micro picture of the way that the whole, world is, because it's becoming mainstream. And of course, being in the entertainment area on TV, then it makes it more okay because it's on TV, right?
Or
but although people doesn't necessarily
say that again, Greg.
About
how do you feel about spirits and all that?
I used to be pretty freaked out by it because I lived with I was married to a woman for 34 years, had schizophrenia. So there was lots of, and so my own path as an empath was very
oh wow.
I mean, it was this, I mean, she had auditory hallucinations, and we'd be watching TV and just really weird stuff. But that is what it is. I think that I don't, I was very wary of it, and plus, in my 30s, I was very involved with the Christian church. That was all about the devil. It was all evil. And I don't have that view anymore, but it's really interesting. I've had a lot of experience around death, and there's always been some really interesting. I remember when my brother died, he aspirated, and and then he died very quickly, about 48 hours after he got to the hospital, and we were. My mother was very distraught about, where he was going and that sort of thing. And it comes time you got to pick out a casket, right? Really one of those grim tasks. So I'm walking around with my mother and my sister. We're walking around looking at different things. And we're walking around. At that time, we had been praying and kind of, and then we looked and nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed appropriate. And then I come around the corner and turn around and go, oh, wow, look at that. And I called my mother and my sister over. Like, that was the one, because it had this sunrise sewn into the fabric of the lid. And it was like, it was a really magical moment. It's like he was there saying, you know, I'm okay. That's the impression and the feeling that we had. As disturbing and troubling it was, and dramatic that it was, that he passed in that way. It was like this settling, calming experience. So, you know, so while I was a skeptic for a long time and a doubter and all that, all this stuff is still going on, and it's still all very real. And I think that that we can create boundaries. We can create spiritual and energetic boundaries. And because it all depends on what your belief is. But I think there's some.
Absolutely.
You know, we are our own best guide. I truly believe that our lives are the magnifying glass yes, we can learn a lot from teachers and coaches like myself or whatever. I mean, I've coached over 500 people. And the thing that I thought was interesting about one of the things that Mel asked is that, you know, is the thing that I know of people, that my clients who got what they wanted, is they were transfixed and very clear on what they wanted, and they never lost sight of that.
Yeah.
They had no illusions that it was going to be a straight line from here to here to get to where they wanted. They were quite willing to go take the winding road and climb the mountain and go the valleys and do whatever they had to do. So that, you know, I've learned more from 30 years of coaching people than I still can't believe I got paid to do it. But the reality is that there's a spiritual aspect to the entirety of life. And so now that's the exciting part for me. I mean, I absolutely partitioned that off in my life, because from a professional perspective, I never found it to be, nobody was ever willing to embrace and look at that side, the spiritual side or the energy side of life. That's all changed. And I've changed.
I want to interject because I think it's an interesting thing. And Jonathan, I see your question, and I think it was Becky that will address that. But because I have this old brain that keeps having hot flashes, so I want to get this out. We talk about the spiritual side, but I know that there's been times that we've had people visiting this blab that aren't from the spiritual aspect, but more of the non-spiritual. So in the way,
that's okay.
Say that again.
I said, and that's okay.
But the way that I try to come at things, because I'm approaching this as a professional also, is I don't know if we always have to use the word, like, I'm wondering, this is a wonder that I'm having right now about the word, using the word spiritual versus just reality, because like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
we use the word spiritual as a word, like that's what we decided to use for the word to describe a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Well, I think it's a reality for, you know, you, me, Greg. For us, it's a reality. For other people, not so much. They recognize it as a spiritual side of life, something that maybe they don't feel comfortable with or they don't really believe in. And I think you're right. But like with Jonathan asking about the proof, I had mentioned with mainstream media, TV shows, like Ghost Adventures. I mean, they may not be the best example, but there are people like Bill Chappell. I don't know if anybody's heard of Bill Chappell, but he's a scientist, and he's very skeptical of spiritual phenomena, ghosts, all that. And he's actually created a lot of devices that have helped to bring evidence to the table to allow everybody to see proof of the paranormal.
Thank you.
Bill Chappell. He's actually on Twitter. Yes. He's wonderful. He's created these devices. One is called an ovulus. And I don't know how it works, so I don't want to try to explain how it works because I have no idea. But it actually, with frequency and vibration, much like a radio, spirits, that the spiritual energy, they can manipulate these devices to use words to communicate. So if anybody I'm sure everybody's heard of Ghost Adventures, but if you haven't, either look up Bill Chappell or Ghost Adventures, and you can see these devices in action. And they've said it a million times that Bill Chappell is actually very skeptical. He doesn't believe in the afterlife, so to say, but you can see him have these amazing experiences with his devices that he's created.
Well, have you guys seen anything about the Heart Math Institute? You've seen the different studies that they've done? Heart Math?
Who?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating because they say that the heart has a brain, and they've done these tests where they sit these subjects in a room. It's a protected room energetically and stuff, and they sit them in front of a monitor, and they attach things to their head. I should say probes. We've now gone into the twilight zone. We're being probed, but they put these things on their head and their heart, and what they do is they measure the energy. They flash the image, and they time when the image comes, and then when the person reacts, when the brain reacts. And what they found is that milliseconds before the image actually pops up on the screen, the heart responds.
Wow.
And I think just milliseconds before the heart responds, just before the image actually becomes visible on the screen. That to me is spiritual. That's energy. They've also done tests where they put probes on a guy and attach those probes to yogurt, and then they attach the probes to the yogurt, and then they put probes in the yogurt to this machine, and the yogurt picks up on his energy. It's absolutely fascinating stuff. If you guys check out the Heart Math Institute, it's absolutely fascinating. And the other thing is that when heart surgeons are trained, they know there's a part of the heart they cannot touch. If they touch that part of the heart, the patient's gone. There's no bringing them back. And they say it's that little 40 or 50,000 cell brain in the heart.
Whoa.
So
now speaking about heart, what do you guys, there's a lot of talk about the pineal gland and the use of the pineal gland. What do you guys think about that?
I definitely have used visualization of like asking to have it cleared, asking to be able to use it as wisely and as well as I can. I've done meditation, just like visualizing being in that area. And that's one of the things that I've asked, because to me, it does feel like it's the place of knowing. I mean, I feel like there's a couple of other places in your body that are also places of knowing, like your gut, like right in your center, because I do a lot of raising my energy from that point to activate the rest of my body, or activate, like I'll raise my energy in my center to activate my pineal gland, because if my energy is lagging, then I don't feel like I can function as well at, intuiting things. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And talking about like the whole yogurt thing, like the yogurt reacting to the guy.
Yeah.
When I do intuitive healings, long distance, so that means someone's not right in front of me, I can very, very often the person I'm working with can feel a difference, or can feel me doing whatever I'm doing, working on, say that there's an issue with headaches or an issue with their back.
That's right. It's like you're connecting with their energy. That's what I do when I would do readings for people. It's because there's that physical space that separates you, but you have to connect energetically.
Right. Because I think that's all we think, people talk about everybody being connected, like all people, we're all one. And if we can connect with someone so well, so far away, or, I like in my readings, I can see what's going on with someone 1,000 miles away. And if someone can do that, then we're not so separated, I don't think, as many of us think we are.
Right.
And I think that there's some people in our lives, this is another topic I love. People that we meet that we feel a little bit more connected to, like we've known them before. And then there's always that energetic connection there that seems to always kind of stay in place, even after you separate.
Yeah, definitely. We got some questions here. Jonathan,
yeah, I'm gonna actually research that because that's a really good question. I've only seen him use them. I'm on the show, but like the crew that does the show uses them. But they're not scientists. I wouldn't say they're scientists. They're paranormal investigators. So I'll look into that because I know that there's a lot of scientists in the paranormal field that may be more skeptical, but they're creating the devices for these investigators to use. So I will research that.
Can I put a link in the, I found a video of Bill Chappell about his devices.
Sure.
Yes.
So it's about digital dowsing, and he explains the SLS Connect device.
Oh, perfect. He explains it. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. And there was another one. That might be the LSS Connect that you're talking about, where they can actually map the energy of a spirit that you can't physically see with your eyes. So, there won't be anything there. And then all of a sudden you can see this image of a person, when there's nobody physically there. It's pretty
I was at a workshop recently. Oh.
I was going to say, do they ever work with like mediums in that same environment so that they can compare? Do you know what I mean? Compare what?
I think that the lead investigator, his name is Zach. I personally think that he is a medium because they always talk about the energy they're feeling, sensing, and then he even talks about seeing things. So I think that he is, but once in a while they will get some mediums in there. But it's it's so hard with those shows because a lot of people are skeptical, and you have somebody telling you what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really, I'm the same way. Like I'll see people and I'm like, meh, but it's what I do, it's one of my skills. So for me to be skeptical,
that's what I said to Greg earlier. I said, I don't trust anybody well enough for me to go to someone else for a healing.
Right. Because you're trusting them with your energy. Because like you had said, when you connect with people, you are opening yourself up to somebody else and taking on their stuff too, really.
Hey, I have this.
That whole thing of working clean is huge, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have this crazy story that this may be too far-fetched for here, but hello to everybody that just joined. But that's all right. I lived in Michigan, and I went to a Reiki healing circle. It was, this free thing you go, and they had a lot of tables set up, like 10 tables, and people were basically laying on the tables, and these healers would go around and do free Reiki for them. So this was kind of at the beginning of, when I started doing stuff, but I saw a lot of stuff at the time, and I wasn't very filtered, with shutting myself off.
Right.
And I was laying there waiting for the person to come around, and all of a sudden, it was like this giant, what I saw, my eyes were closed. What I saw coming at me was this giant reptilian person. Like that's how I saw this person coming at me. And that's what I couldn't, she came up to me and I just like, I shut my whole self down, and because I wasn't going to jump up as she was walking at me to say, "Don't touch me," but I shut my whole self down because I didn't know, what, and it was not that I don't know what that was all about, but and I know that there's stories out there of things existing,
right? Well, it's attachment. Spirits can attach to us. And if you have a spirit that's essentially working through somebody else who does energy work and whatnot.
This was more than just your random spirit.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
What
I think I looked up Nephilium after that. That's what
that whole thing you're talking about in terms of attaching to spirits and stuff. That's where I sort of draw the line, because I believe that we are our own energy vortex. And I got that. I learned that from a shaman down in the Grand Canyon. He said, everybody comes to Sedona to try to experience the energy vortexes. You are an energy vortex. And so, so I guess I think that I'm not sure about that. It's not something that I'm not going to carry. I personally choose not to carry that energy that way. That's just my thing.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to diss what you're saying at all. I just think that there's so much about this we just don't know. It's totally unable to quantify. If you ask Christina how she does what she does, how does it work?
You can't explain.
Deconstruct it. Show me the steps. All that.
Right.
I mean, even with all the advances in brain science and consciousness and the studies they've done around mindfulness and everything, they still cannot answer why we experience ourselves as the subject and why we have to work so hard to be the observer rather than be that it's me having the experience. That it's me. So that I just think there's so much that's unknown.
What about?
I always think of that because I had personally dealt with an attachment. So I know, but I understand what you're saying. It's like I think some people probably don't deal with them.
I think I have seen too much to not believe in, and even as a healer, I kind of have this visualization of this giant machine that I will like visualize people in to look for attachments.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, let's look at the questions for a second. How do you stop others, people, empathy, and spirit latch onto your soul? I think a lot of people have different ways of protecting themselves. I think my biggest way of telling someone how to protect yourself is to get you to be healthy. The more healthy you are, the safer or the more protected you are from collecting heavier energies. So I think in my history, I've found that if you have problems with addiction, depression, really deep illnesses, you tend to attract, darker stuff to you. But I know, Becky, you probably have different things that you do too, but you can envision like a big ball of like egg-shaped light with mirrors on the outside. So and just say you're deflecting anything, to protect yourself. Being grounded is a good way to protect yourself. Just stating that, I'm walking alone in myself today and I'm protected from, any dark energies or my dog is attacking me.
I literally put up a psychic shield. I'll put up a psychic shield. Depending on the situation. Other times I have visualized my feet growing roots into the earth that any energy coming in flows through me and straight back to mother.
That's really good. I use sage, Palo Santo. Described grounding, going outside on the earth and really meditating, I think helps me to, I feel like I've dealt with a lot of low energy spirits coming in and out. And it can be hard because I do believe that some people experience it more so than others.
Sure.
And I don't know why, I don't know how. It could be maybe I'm not always standing in my power. Maybe I'm not always realizing I'm the energy vortex. But I personally feel like although it can be really stressful and exhausting, I don't mind it because it has taught me a lot.
True.
I've learned and I've grown a lot from being able to.
Very good point. There's so many lessons, isn't there?
Yeah.
Right.
I have a really cool story about this that I had someone who used to live with me, and she had a lot of past sexual abuse in her childhood. And I woke up in the middle of the night, which happens a lot. I see things, I'll wake up and things are standing there. But I woke up and there was this little girl standing next, not little, maybe 14-year-old standing next to me. Yeah. She looked horror movie scary. And when I see negative, like when I see people, I don't know how to put this. Can you stop him?
I think I know what you mean. They project themselves as this really scary.
Well, it's a frenetic, it's a frenetic energy, like in the movies. If I see someone who's died violently, and it's that part of them that suffered from that, and that's how I saw her, that frenetic energy, and she was scary, and her energy was angry, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but when I'm around energy that's high and dark, like angry, I get physical responses. I get nauseous. I have this weird, unreasonable fear that I know isn't mine, but it still rises in me. Goose flesh everywhere. Like you just want to get up and run.
Yes. Yep.
But then there's that other part of me that's not afraid, even though, I'm acknowledging these feelings. And I asked her who she was. And this was her exact words. Or I don't think it was her. It was someone beside me. I wouldn't talk to her. I use Archangel Michael for a lot of things for protection if I want to get information, not directly from this source. And what I heard is that she was a sub-demon, meaning, and I'm not saying she was a demon, but what I'm saying is that was the energy that split off from her. It was a soul fragment, if you want to call it that, of a piece of her that went through this abuse that had to remove herself from the situation. And so I thought that talk about like learning something that I didn't know, because I ended up working with her and this piece of her, and it was a really big healing experience. But I've seen that with that. There was another time I did this healing with this lady, and I walked into her bedroom, and part of her, it was on the ceiling. And I said, like, what happened in here? And she said she had been in a really like bad marriage and would have sex with her husband, but didn't want to. And so she would literally remove herself in her mind from the situation. Yep. So that piece of her was still, even though the husband was gone, she lived by herself, that piece of her was still up on the ceiling. And it was amazing when we got her down and like integrated the pieces of her together. Her body shook, she cried, uncontrollably, and she just felt like a new person after, because it was her piece of her that had been missing for so long.
That's like shamanistic. What you're doing soul retrieval, and that's really impressive. And I wanted Patrick asked a question that I think we should address
too, and I think he left.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, Patrick, if you're still here, I just wanted to ask, if you say that you got sucked into the negative world and enabled the negative energy. Are you talking about specific like spirits, or are you talking about negative things happening to you? Because I've actually learned something from my shaman teacher that may help. It's helped me quite a bit with some of the negative energies that I've come across. So if you come back and you want to,
Yvette was just sending him like a hail to come back, if he will.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Yvette.
Oh,
That's a really
how did you do that?
Thing. Oh, Christina,
If
I'm
you
so
do-
impressed.
If you do and then the person's
Oh yeah, it'll oh
and
okay,
it
cool.
sends them a message on Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah, I love doing that work. I actually, when I went to Kripalu for my yoga teacher training, they have a walking meditation. And for myself, this is the first time I ever did it it was myself first. And I did this walking meditation, and each place I could feel myself stop and retrieve something from somewhere from myself. Like, it was a part of my personality that was missing, and I could see like what the death was, what the part of me was that was missing, and then I would, call it back. And then I started doing that for other people, but it's not that I really go into a situation to do it. It's just that I see things that tell me that needs to happen, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. The fact that you saw part of her soul where that traumatic event happened, it's pretty amazing. I liken it to where I lost my mother, because I have dreams almost every night about going back to the house where she passed away. And I know that part of my soul is still there, and I apologize to people there if I'm haunting you, but
well, I'll help you with that. Not here, because in a personal space is much better, but
that would be amazing.
I just want to throw a little commercial here for Christina. She did a reading for me on the weekend, like wholly amazingly accurate and really great. So, check out her work. It's real.
Absolutely.
My website up. And also anybody listening, if you want to follow me and everybody here on Twitter, we're going to be doing this once a week because it's so much fun. So we would love to have you come back into, I can't talk and type. That's my website. And I do have a few classes coming up, a yoga class, restorative yoga class, relaxation for teenage girls, and also a guided imagery class if you go to the website. And I do private readings. So Mel, let's connect after here. I'll connect with you, and we can set up a time. That would be great. I'm going to follow you right now. So,
gas, ladies, this has been a lot of fun, and really, I learned a few things today. And thanks for being so generous.
Great. I'm so glad that you came. Thank you.
Yeah, I got to balance out all that female energy.
That's right.
Although that's not possible.
Thanks for trying.
Guys, take care. Yeah, thanks for trying. Yeah, good luck, eh?
I can learn. Oh, that's nice, Mel. Well, I think I want to try to keep this to about an hour so that, we can, I use the recording so we can put it up and it's not too long to listen to. I want to thank everybody for coming and listening and, staying with us. If you have any like last minute questions right now, go ahead and type them in the box.
Like if there's any topics, you guys are interested in, because we're always trying to we could talk for hours just about anything, but if there's anything you guys are interested in that we could bring up.
Go ahead and put them in the box, and we'd be happy. Hi, Michael.
Anybody have any questions or input?
I think everybody.
I think we like tackled a lot of subjects today. It was kind of like a roller coaster.
Can I ask your take on something off recording? Sure. Do you want to ask it completely off a blab or just after we stop recording? Okay. All right. Let me just do my little spiel and then we'll say goodbye and then you can ask. Okay.
Bye.
So this has been Christina and Becky and I got to come up with some type of magical thinking, magical experiences.
Yeah, like what are we gonna call this?
Know.
Because it's
I'm going to sign out and then stop recording. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming and participating. My website is intuithealth.com, IN2ITHEALTH.com. On a magic mission.
I like that.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.